Okay, so lesson 14 is on formulas and solving equations. So what you need to know is a formula is really just an equation, okay? But when you first look at the formula, it's going to have more letters than an equation where it just has x in it, okay? And those letters stand for numbers that when you read through the question, you'll be able to put into the formula until there's only one letter left, and then you use solving equations to find it, okay? So that's what we're doing this morning. So I put some examples of common formulas. Does anyone know what a equals pi r squared is the formula for? Area of a circle. This one, P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Anyone might know what that one's for? P, what can P stand for? Perimeter. P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. That's for area of a, or perimeter, sorry, perimeter of a rectangle. I'm going to skip this one for a second. Area equals base times height divided by 2. That one's area of a triangle. So you can see when we look at them, you can tell there's an equation because there's one equal sign that's in the middle. But instead of just seeing one variable like x, there's a bunch of variables. Okay, so it's the idea of the question is going to fill in a lot of these variables until there's just one left that you use solving equations to find. This one is a financial math formula to find simple interest. And it's just all letters. That's why I put that one there. Okay, there's no numbers anywhere. Whereas here, there's the number pi, number 2 we see, and the number 2 we see in this one. This one's just got all letters. So if you combine what we know about BEDMAS, so we're all pretty good at that, substituting into a formula, we did that on the first day as well, and solving equations, which we spent 3 days on, okay, then we should be able to work with the formula. So we're going to start off with a really easy example and then get to the hardest one you kind of need to know for grade 9, okay? And as we're going through, we're going to kind of go through some strategies that can be helpful. So when you're reading through the question, especially if it's on the midterm, say on Friday, it won't say this is a formula question. So when you see the word formula and you see the formula, then you're going to start connecting it to formula question. So for me, the first step of a formula question is writing out the formula. So it says the formula for the perimeter of a square is P equals 4s. Okay? And then you have to read on to see whether they're going to give you, because there's only 2 variables here, they're going to give you either the P or the S. And you've got to read on to figure that out. If a square has a perimeter of 60 centimeters, so I'm going to jump over here and write what I'm given. So I just read perimeter, or P, is 60 centimeters. What is the length of one of its sides? So what is the length of one of its sides? So that's telling me they want to know S. Okay? So they give me P and they want to know S. So then I go back to my formula. P equals 4S. And I'm either going to replace P with a number or S with a number. And we've decided it's P. Leave units out of it, okay? So arrow down, you're going to replace P with 60, because we know the perimeter is 60 centimeters. And what you're left with is an equation that just has a variable in one spot only. S is our only missing variable, okay? And it's being multiplied by 4. So we want to undo multiply by 4 by dividing by 4 on both sides. And that gives us S equals 15. But when we have a formula question, we always have to answer kind of with a statement instead of just S equals. So we want to answer the question, what is the length of one of its sides? So use your little therefore dots. The side length is 15. That would get you almost all the marks in the question, but if there's units in the question, there's units in the answer. So if the perimeter is in centimeters, then the length of one of the sides would also be in centimeters. So there would be, that question would probably be worth 4 marks, 4 out of 4. Write down the formula, substitute the number they give you or numbers into the right spot, solve for the remaining one, and write your sentence. Okay, so here's our next one. The formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So as soon as you see that, you're going to write down the formula. And when I know it's a formula question, I also know they're going to have to give me information. So on the other side of my page, I like to write out given, and then read through the question and figure out what they give me. Now notice there's a P, an L, and a W. They're going to have to give me 2 numbers out of those 3, so that there's 1 left to solve for. Okay, so let's see which 2 they give me. If a rectangle has a length of 10 centimeters, so you come over to your given, L equals 10 centimeters, and a perimeter of, and a perimeter of 70 centimeters. So you're going to add to your given list. Perimeter is 70 centimeters. And then what's it asking? Determine the width. So it's W that you don't know. So you've got your formula and you've written out your given. So now you're just going to use substitution. So for the P, we can just arrow down and replace it with 70. But for length, it's beside the number 2. So we have to substitute using brackets. So we're going to do 2 and then replace L with 10 using brackets. And then plus 2 times the width. So we've got it to where there's just one variable, but we can make the right side nicer by actually multiplying the 2 by the 10. Okay, so that's what I would do next. I'm going to leave this side alone, but I know that that's multiplied, so I'm going to do that. 2 times 10 gives me 20. And now it's a regular solving equations question, where you want to get width by itself. Some people are running out of room, sorry about that. So see, what would you do to both sides first, once you get to that stage? Width by itself. So this is a side with width on it, so my choices are subtracting 20 or dividing by 2. Who knows which one I would do? Yep, subtract 20, good. So we're all still on the same equations train of thought, which is really good. So I've made my zero pair. Now I divide by 2. And you guys have probably run out of room, so just use an arrow. Width equals 25. Okay, if it was just a solving equations question, that would be your answer. But it's a formula question, so determine the width. So you're going to do your 3 dots for therefore. The width is 25, and then look and see what the units were in the other measurements here. Centimeters. So the width is also going to be in centimeters. Okay, so that one was harder because we had 3 variables in the formula instead of just 2. The ones with 2 tend to be the most straightforward. And actually probably the most common in grade 9 until we get into our measurement unit. Okay, let's look at the next one. So again, you're reading this question. Frank gets paid according to the formula. Okay, that word formula triggers. It's a formula question, and you copy down the formula. E equals 11.75H plus 50. Jack, are you copying this down? Can you turn your phone off, please? Thank you. Where, so we know we're going to have a given, where P represents his pay in dollars and H represents the number of hours he worked. So that's important information, but it's not giving you a number. And now you know that P stands for pay. So P stands for pay, and H stands for hours. That might help you when you figure out what to put where. So P stands for pay, H stands for hours. Okay. If Frank's pay was $426, so we go over to our given. His pay is $426. How many hours did he work? So that means H is going to be what we have to find. So that's our formula we're working with. Pay is what we're given. So that means we should be able to arrow down and replace P with, leave any units out, even dollar signs, so 426. And now it's just an equation. Instead of an X, it has an H. So the side with the letter, in this case an H, is going to tell you what to do. So once you've got all that information in, then you're just going to solve your equation for H using reverse BEDMAS. see 3 people that have subtracted 50 on both sides. So this is the side with the variable. I want to undo any adding or subtracting first, but if I do it to this side, I also have to do it to this side. And I notice one person has their line down, so if that helps you, keep that up, that's great. So 426 minus 50. Go to your calculator, 426 minus 50 is 376. 11.75H. Okay? And the 11.75 is right beside the H, so it means multiply. So the inverse operation is divide. Often formulas have not as nice numbers as just normal equations have. So you might be unsure, is it okay to divide by 11.75? But yes, it is. So 376 divided by 11.75 is 32. And then make sure when you're therefore statement, you answer the question, how many hours did he work? Therefore, he worked for 32 hours. Therefore, he worked for 32 hours. Okay, so we have this common idea of write the formula down, write out what you're given, substitute it in. You might have to do a little bit of multiplying or something first, and then you use reverse BEDMAS and solve. Okay? All right, question 4. So again, I'm reading it through, either underlining or with a highlighter. The formula for the volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared H. So V equals pi r squared H. The formula for the volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared H. So you can see that's a variable. Pi is a number. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I missed one. I missed 2. Holy. Thank you for telling me. All right. The formula for the area of a triangle. This one's easier. Nice. Area of a triangle is A equals base times height divided by 2. I'm going to write it down. So when you find the formula, write it down. Then you're going to also write out a given because you know you're going to be given, if there's 3 variables, 2 of them anyways. Let's see what we're given. If the area of a triangle is 28 centimeters squared, so area is 28 centimeters squared, and base is 7 centimeters. What is the height? So H equals question mark. All right, we're going to substitute now. So see if you can put A and B into the proper places in the formula. A and B in the proper places in the formula. Zach, where does A go? What do I put in for A? You're supposed to be copying this down and paying attention. Yep. Yes. Area is 28 centimeters squared, but we leave the units off. Perfect. Okay. Base is 7, so 7h divided by 2. You could just have the 7 right beside the h without the brackets. That would be okay too, because 7h means 7 times h, and in brackets it also means 7 times h. So if h is what I want to get done by itself, if that's what I want to get by itself, what's happening to it? It's being multiplied by 7 and divided by 2. Okay? Multiplied by 7 and divided by 2. How do you undo the divided by 2? What's the inverse operation of divide by 2? Yep. Yes. So if I want to show that, remember, we don't show it in the denominator, we show it in the numerator. So multiply by 2 on this side, but we're also going to multiply by 2 on this side. So this 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that's what I'm thinking to myself. I multiplied by 2 in order to undo the divide by 2. Okay? I multiplied by 2 in order to undo the divide by 2. But I still have to do the 2 times 28. So I'm going to do 2 times 28, and it gives me 56. And on this side, 7 times h is just 7h. The 2's divided into 1, because that was my whole purpose for multiplying by 2. So I still want to get h by itself, and it's being multiplied by 7. So this is our easy inverse operation. We all know the inverse of multiply is divide, and that's what we're used to doing. And then we get h equal to 8. And then we read, what's it asking for? The height of the triangle. So we put our 3 dots, therefore, the height of the triangle. I'm just going to use a symbol for a triangle like that. Is 8, and then we need units. So it's not going to be the units of area, it's going to be the same units as the base was. So it's going to be centimeters. Good. Okay, question 5 is an EQAO question. It was a multiple choice one. So I'm going to give you some time and see if A. All right, so tons of people identified the formula they were given and wrote it down. That was awesome. And then it's important to know what the things stand for, especially when it's not a perimeter formula or something you're used to. C is cost. You don't have to do this, but so you know the C represents the cost. And N is the number of songs. Number of songs. So now when I read the rest, it'll be easier for me to tell which number they're giving me. Okay? So 1 month, a customer is charged $15.20. So that means under my given, I can add the cost or the charge is $15.20. How many songs were played? That's N. So N is what I don't know. It's my question mark. Okay? So now I should be able to put the 1520 into the right spot, which would be in for C. And then I need to use solving equations to get n by itself, the number of songs. Okay, so I want to look at the two sides of my equation now. And see, okay, here is the variable n. So this is the side that's going to help me decide what to do next. So I want to undo any adding or subtracting. So I want to undo this 14 by subtracting 14 on both sides. So there's my zero pair. So on this side I have 0.002n. And on this side I have $1.20, 1.20. Okay. Now what's happening to the n is being multiplied by 0.002. So the inverse operation is to divide by 0.002. And I end up getting n equals, so type that in carefully with the right number of zeros, 1.20 divided by 0.002 is 600, and then we hope that that's one of the answers at the side. Yes. And in a multiple choice question, you don't need to put a therefore statement. Okay? Just show the math part, and then circle the right answer at the end. Okay? All right, on to number 6. So this is our formula for the volume of a cylinder. Is V equals pi r squared h, and I was pointing out that pi is a number. Last time we saw pi, some people said it's approximately 3.14, which is correct. Okay, it's approximately that, but there is a pi button on your calculator that gives it to more decimal places. V is a letter, R is a letter, and so is H. So we've got 3 letters in our formula. They have to give us numbers to put in for 2 of them, 2 out of the 3. Okay? So we're going to make our given over here, and then see what it is they give us. A can of Diet Coke has a volume of 250 centimeters cubed, so that's V. And a radius of 2.5 centimeters, so we can add R to our list. 2.5 centimeters. Determine the height. Determine the height of the can H of the can of Diet Coke to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. So H is our question mark. You write this down, Zach? Okay, you gotta catch up to me a bit. This isn't multiple choice, so you can't just do anything multiple. All right, so now we're going to try to put the numbers into the correct spot. So we can replace V with 250. Pi, we know it's just a number. R, I'm going to use brackets to replace with 2.5, bracket, and then squared, and then H. Okay. So what we can do is simplify this side a bit before we start to solve. And how can we do that? we can start following just plain old bed mass. So on this side, is there brackets? Yes, but there's just a number inside. Is there exponents? Yes. So we're going to do that next. So I'm going to leave pi alone, but I'm going to do 2.5 times 2.5 on my calculator. And it gives me 6.25 times height. And this is really, on this side of my equation, all three things multiplying together. Okay, so height is being multiplied by pi, and it's being multiplied by 6.25. Okay? So a good way to get the height by itself is to first see what pi times 6.25 is. Okay, and then I'll just have one number in front of each. So if you need your tutor's help to find your pi button, or you can use 3.14 if you want to keep that, makes you feel more comfortable, and then times 6.25. And then keep two numbers after the decimal. So when I type that in, I get, because I use the pi button, I get this long number on my calculator. But I want to keep two numbers after the decimal. So this 4 decides whether I round the 3 up or leave the 3 alone. Does anyone remember the rule? How do you know whether to round up or not? 5. So if this was a 5, I would round that up, but it's a 4, so it stays the same. Very good. So the number in front of H is now 19.63 times H. So now that I've multiplied those two together, it becomes a fairly straightforward question. To get H by itself, it's being multiplied by 19.63. So my inverse operation is going to be to divide by 19.63, but you have to do it on both sides. So we end up getting that the height is approximately 12.7 because it says to the nearest tenth. So I got 12.73, but the 3 tells the 7 to stay the same. And because that's a rounded answer, you put your dot above the equal sign. Okay, this means approximately 12.7 instead of exactly 12.7. And then we just need to answer the question, determine the height of the can of Diet Coke. So therefore, the height of the can is 12.7, and then so for your units, centimeters. If the radius was in centimeters, then the height is going to be in centimeters. Okay, Mr. Jago's here, so we're going to leave it there for now, and we'll finish on example 7 after the break. Oh, I'm frozen. That's why. Okay. Oh, sorry. Recording, perfect. All right, so we left off at number 7. Oops, there was that crazy smartboard glitch. Okay. Jenny buys a car from her parents. Okay, so the formula, so I would copy that down. 1.13 capital T equals 80N plus capital D. is the formula that Jenny will use to pay back her parents. And then I would start making my given. Okay? And then read through. So T represents the cost of the car before applicable taxes. So that sounds like a lot, but really it's cost. So I'm gonna like put a little arrow and note to myself that T represents the cost. Okay, so T is gonna represent the cost. And then the next thing they tell me is N, little n represents the number of monthly payments Jenny makes to her parents. So I'm going to put a little arrow to the N and use the little number symbol, number of payments. So now I know N represents the number of payments and T is the cost. And then D represents the down payment Jenny gives to her parents. Okay? So D is the down payment. So she has to give her parents a certain amount of money down. Okay? They're helping her buy a car. And then each month she pays them she pays them $80, it looks like, but we don't know how many months she pays them for, okay? So if we put the three letters down, T, N, and D, we have to figure out which ones they give us and which one it is that we have to find. So far, all this writing, and it looks a bit overwhelming, we've got out of it the formula and then what each letter stands for. Okay? So now we're looking for numbers. How many payments? So there's the question right there. How many payments? So that's number of payments is N. So there's my question mark. How many payments must Jenny make to her parents if she makes a down payment? So D is $642. So down payment of $642. And the cost of the car before taxes is $3,400. So you filled in your given, your total cost, your down payment, and it's N that you want to find. Okay? Have you got the formula written down there? Okay, so now that you've organized all that information, it's a long question. So if you saw this on EQAO or on the midterm, you put your hand up, I'll come around and read it to you slowly so that you have time to write things down that you want to write down. Okay? All right, so then we have a number to put in for T, but we've still got this 1.13 first. So if you're replacing or substituting right beside a number, you have to use brackets there. So we're going to replace T with 3,400. N is what we're trying to find, plus 642. So now we've got our letter in just one spot. We're almost ready to start solving, but it would be nicer if we actually multiplied the 1.13 times the 3,400. So I get my calculator out. So I just put one number on that side instead of a product. So 1.13. Careful when you're typing in decimals. 3,842. Equals 80n plus 642. So now we've got it looking like a regular equation to solve, even though the numbers are a bit bigger. So we've got it to that level. So now you're going to look, N is on the right side, so the right side is going to tell me what to do. And I'm going to start using reverse BEDMAS. So who can tell me what I would do first to both sides? Yep. Perfect. So you undo any adding or subtracting, just make sure you do it to both sides, create a zero pair, awesome. Then we're going to actually subtract 3,842 minus 642 is 3,200. And then we're going to undo times by 80 by divided by 80. And I ran out of room, so I'm just going to do a little arrow. N is 40, thanks. And then we've got to make our therefore statement, because all formula questions, unless they're multiple choice, are like word problems. So therefore, Jenny has to make 40 payments. So always make sure in your therefore statement that you answer the question they ask. So how many payments must Jenny make to her parents? That's got to be your answer. Therefore, Jenny has to make 40 payments. Okay? Especially if it's an open response question. This was an EQAL question. It was an open response question. And people did really well on it. But I did have quite a few kids ask me to read it that year, which was fine. But as soon as we read through it, they were fine. Okay, so I will stop the recording.